Chapter 25. Tension strummed tight within Mackenzie as she glanced around the lunchroom of the distillery at those assembled. Maggie and her son, Donnie, Jim and Carolyn, Jesse, Henry, Buddy and Quinn, Gavin and Trent, and James. God, no wonder Rachel was still heartbroken over the man. He really was gorgeous. She reached under the table to grasp her friend's hand and squeezed in silent support. She was pretty sure this was the first time Rachel had laid eyes on her high school boyfriend since he'd left town without saying goodbye the night before their senior graduation. Jake stood behind her, his injury making it uncomfortable for him to sit. The weight of his hand on her shoulder was reassuring for her, but antagonistic to his sister. Chloe sat at the other end of the table, resolutely ignoring them. The pain of her disapproval was a sharp cut into Mackenzie's already hurting heart. What if Jake hadn't come back? What the hell was happening with their town? The virus, the motorcycle gang, the council. Threats pressed in on all sides and anxiety expanded in her chest, making it difficult to breathe and causing her to reach for her inhaler. "Are all the doors locked?" Maggie asked James, rising from her seat to stand before the group. "We're secure," he confirmed. "Right. Well, let's get down to business. It's fair to say things have escalated quickly with the council, and if we don't stop it, we could be in some serious trouble," Maggie said. "I've mentioned to some of you that key members of the council used to indulge in fantasy world building, kind of like playing fantasy football. Before anyone even knew this virus was a possibility, they'd already spent hours upon hours imagining how they'd structure their own post-apocalyptic world. The parts I overheard in the strumpet were the essence of toxic masculinity, and our current situation has them with all the power. They control the food, and they've got all the weapons." "Not all the weapons," Rachel cut in. "We rounded up 2 rifles and a handgun." "And there'll be more," Mackenzie spoke up. "We just didn't have the time to search farther." "I've got a hunting rifle I didn't turn in," Jim admitted, and Henry also raised his hand. "Good," Maggie said. "Our biggest problem is that the council is already an established authority, and in times of turmoil, people want to follow the familiar." "Hang on," Jake interrupted. "Are you suggesting we overthrow the council?" "I'm suggesting we give the town another option," Maggie countered calmly. Jake crossed his arms. "Don't you think we should sit down and have a conversation with Townsend before we stage a coup?" "Our place in this town is a given, not a negotiation," growled Jim. Mackenzie shifted in her seat, apprehensive of Jake's dissent. "I'm not arguing with that, Jim. What I'm saying is that outside of Sanford, there's a virus that's killed a huge percentage of the population, as well as a lawless and dangerous motorcycle gang. I think our best bet is to bunker down, stick together as a town, and stay safe." "That's just the problem, though. We're not safe with Townsend," Mackenzie said quietly, glad she didn't have to look at Jake as she opposed him. "They're tying kids to stakes." Jake's hand flexed on her shoulder. "They tied them up because they're kids. If they were adults, they would have shot them," interjected Gavin. Mackenzie noticed with increasing unease that Jake didn't disagree with Gavin. "And what have they done with the people in the travel lodge?" asked Chloe. "Where's Grams?" "They're threatening to throw us out of town," Caroline chimed in. "They're being unnecessarily heavy-handed," Jake agreed. "And we need answers to a lot of things, but I don't think overthrowing the council is the right move." "Let's start with something smaller," Maggie placated when the nervous energy of the room escalated. "James, why don't you run us through some of your suggestions?" Rachel stiffened beside Mackenzie as James's large form straightened from where he'd been leaning against a wall. "I don't think we need to go in guns blazing," he addressed Jake, before sweeping his eyes over those assembled. "I just think we need to be prepared. We need to decrease our reliance on the council and have plans in place in case we need them." James was steady and reassuring, and Mackenzie took her first deep breath in what felt like forever. This was what she needed, to make plans and gain back a semblance of control. Her breathing faltered when Jake's hand left her shoulder, the absence of connection robbing her of oxygen. I agree that making plans is a smart move, but I'm beat. I'm going to head home and get some rest, Jake said, his voice strained with an undercurrent of pain. You coming, Mac? Her heart throbbed with indecision. She ached to be with Jake, to be held in his embrace and block out the rest of the world. But the rest of the world didn't give a damn about what she wanted. She could want to be with Jake, but she needed to take control of her life, to wake up and smell the coffee. Damn it, why had she skipped her non-fat latte with caramel drizzle on that last morning in Chicago? Who knew when, if ever, she'd have Starbucks again? Mac? Mentally shaking herself, she swallowed before turning in her chair to face him. I'm going to stay, just for a bit. I want to help. He raised an eyebrow, indicating he could also use her help. Between him and Chloe, she was going to drown in guilt. Dex whined at her feet, sensing her distress. I got you, Jakey. Kat bounded out of her seat and slung an arm around his waist. I want to sneak some food to those kids who are tied up. You can help distract the guards. Jake's eyes held Mackenzie's. A plea? A challenge? And she was the one to drop her gaze. She turned slowly back as he and Kat left, battling the desire to run after him. You okay? Rachel murmured. She nodded, avoiding looking at her friend in case the tears that threatened spilled over. For the next hour, they discussed strategies, including stockpiling their own supplies and organizing a roster to sneak into the evac area when Quinn, Buddy, or Henry were on guard duty to scavenge and note what was out there. Their primary task was subtly canvassing the town's residents to find out who was on board with the council and who they could recruit to their cause. We need to be smart about this, Maggie said. We can't stage a rebellion without offering an alternative to the town. Let's organize another meeting in the next few days, and in the meantime, think about how you'd like to see the community run. We need as many ideas as possible. And it goes without saying, keep this meeting to yourself, Jim instructed. The last thing we need is Townsend getting wind of any opposition. You don't think your little confrontation with him today alerted him to the fact there's opposition? Henry asked. He's going to be watching you like a hawk. You need to lie low and steer clear of the rest of us. Yeah, okay, Jim grumbled. I'll play submissive, but we need more information. The council confiscated the ham radio that Roland Oxley had, and we need to know what they're hearing on it. Do you think Jake can find out? He looked between Chloe and Mackenzie, neither of whom looked at the other. You're right about needing information, Rachel intervened, because Townsend's fascist system of oppression pales compared to knowing what's happening with the virus. Okay, well, if that's it, Caroline said, standing, I'm going to check in on Tabitha. She's a mess after learning about Rob. Everyone dispersed until it was just James left with Mackenzie, Rachel, and Chloe. Oh, hell no, Rachel muttered, her chair legs squeaking as she pushed back abruptly. I'm out of here. Ladies, nice to see you. James doffed an imaginary hat and followed Rachel. Think he knows he's about to get slapped? Mackenzie said, and then flashed her eyes to Chloe. It was killing her that her best friend was upset with her. Chloe, can we talk about this? Now you want to talk? Well, that's a nice change, Chloe snapped before softening marginally. Since when do we keep secrets from each other? Hot guilt prickled over Mackenzie. I know, I'm sorry. You're my best friend, Mac. We share everything. It just kind of happened on our way back to Sanford. My parents took you in. Jake was like a brother to you. After everything Mom and Dad did for you, how do you think they'd feel? That was a punch to the gut. Chloe's parents had taken Mackenzie in, but it wasn't done for her. They did it to control their own reputation. They were the good Christian family who took in a stray, but their generosity had been a contract with hidden terms of compliance. And falling in love with their son was definitely a breach of contract. Mom and Dad think of you as a daughter, Mac. Oh, come on, Chloe. You don't really believe that, do you? What? Chloe's face was the picture of puzzled hurt. You practically lived with us. Mom put so many hours into helping you apply for your college scholarship. Mackenzie sighed. She was so tired. Your mom and dad are good people and were always kind to me, but they don't love me, Chloe. They took me in so that you wouldn't be best friends with a street kid. They helped me with my scholarship to get me out of Sanford. Not for me, for them. I'm sure they didn't mean to make me feel like an afterthought, but that was what I was. Mac, Chloe was stricken. I didn't know you felt like that. It's fine. Honestly, it is. I'm grateful for everything they've done. But trust me when I say they don't think of me as a daughter. Maybe not, but I think of you as a sister, Chloe whispered. I'm so sorry I've been a jerk about this. In seconds, they were out of their seats, a tangled mess of arms and tears and apologies. If it comes to choosing between Jake and you, I'll choose you. Chloe had been the one constant in Mackenzie's life. She'd shown Mackenzie what love and kindness and empathy were. Don't be dramatic, Chloe sniffed, although you have no idea how weird it is to think about you being with my little brother. That's going to take some getting used to. To be honest, it was more about not wanting to lose you to him, and also missing Ash. I feel hollow, she admitted, just empty. I don't know where he is, how he is. I'm just empty and aching, and I don't know how to get through this without him. Mackenzie tightened her arms around her best friend. I can't imagine how you're feeling, but I know you're not alone in this. I have one condition. No talking about sex. No talking about sex.